Hello, everyone. My name is Marta Kallars. I am a Neurografika instructor and an aesthetic coach, and I am also a facilitator of inner development in the Pathwork Method. And today I'm really excited because this meeting will be a bit of an experiment for me, where I want to thoughtfully combine these two methods, these two different paths, in order to tell you more about the divine attributes. The content of today's meeting is taken from the Pathwork lectures. It's specifically lecture AB4, which is titled The Three Divine Attributes, Love, Wisdom, and Power, and Their Distortions. I warmly invite you to visit the website pathworkpolska.com.pl, I believe, where you can read this lecture yourself. I warmly encourage you to do so. As for some informational and organizational matters, as far as I know, we're here on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And I want to let those of you on Instagram know that the stream there will only last for an hour. So if possible, try to switch over to YouTube so you can stay with me until the end. I see your greetings. I'm really glad you're here. Hello, my dears. Hello. I can really feel it. Even though we don't have direct contact here, I truly feel that I'm not alone. I also want to tell you that this is an international meeting because at the same time, this event is being translated into Spanish. The people who are joining me on this pathwork journey also wanted to see and experience how pathwork information can be shared through Neurografika. So thank you very much, Anya, for the translations. So yes, that's that. And now, a bit of housekeeping. The meeting will last about 2 hours. It might run a little longer. So that's about, that's roughly how much time you should set aside. Get your markers, paper, and anything else you use for drawing ready. We might take a break, depending on whether we need one. Emicham, hi, hello. Yes. Oh, Gabi's here, great. All right, so let's get started and not drag out the introduction any longer. Since this is an open meeting, open to everyone, I suggest we start with a brief introduction on how to draw a neurographic line for those who haven't done it yet. And for those who already know how, well, you can never have too much practice. So now I'm going to switch to the camera for a moment so we can practice the neurographic line together and the rounding together. And for those who are doing this for the first time, you'll have a chance to see how it works. Hold on, I need to switch over. That. These are notes on divine attributes. And now, please take out your sheets of paper. Add the marker. I'll take a slightly thicker one. I'll try to speak slowly enough so that Anya can translate it. Anya, if it's too fast, please let me know in the chat as well. Hello everyone. A4 paper is fine, A5 works too. Will the live stream be saved? Yes, it will be saved. It will be available on YouTube, so no worries. I'll be glancing at the chat here, but let's agree that once we get into the whole process of drawing and discussing the topic, I might miss some things in the chat. So let's leave all your questions, thoughts, and so on for later, and we'll get to them at the end. So at the end, I hope we'll still have some time to chat for a bit, okay? Use whatever paper you want, whatever feels right to you. Neurographic line. Neurographic line. Its definition is that it's a line that doesn't repeat itself at any point along its path, and we draw it where we don't expect to see it. At first, this definition might seem a bit complicated for those who are encountering it for the first time. And when I teach the basic user course, we spend a lot of time really getting a feel for the neurographic line, practicing it, and so on. Well, we don't have that opportunity here, so in a brief version, the neurographic line, as you can see, is a line that is rounded and that we draw on the paper in such a way that it doesn't repeat itself in any segment of its path. That means that if I divide this segment into smaller parts, there won't be two that are the same, so now you can practice drawing this line a little. It is characterized by its biomorphic quality, meaning it resembles nature, and that's why it's rounded and doesn't repeat itself. If at any point your line comes out a bit angular or sharp, like mine here, you can always make it thicker to turn it into a rounded, softer shape. So if it doesn't come out very smooth, flexible, or soft right away, don't worry about it. You can always make it a bit thicker and adjust it until it looks flexible and soft. Draw a few lines like this yourself. See how it feels for you. Is it easy for you, or is it difficult? You can notice what you feel in those moments, when it works out for you and when it doesn't. A few lines like that, lines that don't repeat themselves at any point along their path. This is a really intense workout for our brain, because our brain likes repetitive things. It gets less tired that way and uses less energy. So when we draw a neurographic line, we're essentially inviting our brain, in a sense, to work just a bit harder, to stimulate and activate even more neurons while we're drawing. Well, maybe some resistance might come up when things aren't working out. Maybe an inner critic might show up, like, I don't know if I'm doing this right, if I'm capable, and so on. Let it go. Don't worry about those voices. If the line doesn't come out quite right somewhere, you can always, as I said, make it thicker and soften it so that it looks nice and smooth. This is important in the neurographic process, that we know how to draw the line in a soft, rounded way, because then, through our sense of sight, we stimulate our subconscious to reach a state of relaxation. Our subconscious feels safe when it sees these rounded, soft shapes. So that's the neurographic line. And what else we need to create a neurographic drawing is to learn how to make roundings. We make roundings in a neurographic drawing everywhere the lines intersect. So whenever I have an intersection here, I make a rounding. A rounding looks like this. All the angles, those 4 angles that are created when 2 lines cross, I round off just like this, right? So I make these quarter circles, these half circles, kind of from the inside. Oh, something like that. If I have another intersection here, then again, I round it off. And I do it gently, so it looks nice. So that everything is rounded, so that everything is connected together. And this way, a neurographic pattern forms on my paper, a kind of network of neurographic lines that are all connected to each other. They're coupled. In neurography, we have this specific word, coupling, which essentially means that these nodes, these rounded structures, are what connect all the lines together into one single, cohesive pattern, forming a unified whole. I still have something here. Please, draw along with me so you can get some practice. So you can feel what it's like. To draw a neurographic line that doesn't repeat itself along any part of its path and is connected to all the other lines with those same roundings. There is also a second part to the definition of a neurographic line, which says that we draw it where we don't expect to see it. And this, too, could be discussed and practiced for a long time, this second part of the definition of a neurographic line. But in our workshop setting here, let me put it this way. When you're drawing the neurographic line and you more or less know which direction you want it to go, try, from time to time, to let it go a little differently, maybe a bit more downward, maybe a bit more upward, so that it doesn't go exactly the way we want it to, but to allow ourselves every now and then to let it run off somewhere a bit differently, right? Yeah, let's let ourselves be surprised by that line from time to time. Let it go off in a different direction. If we wanted to, we could practice this a bit longer. What does it mean that the line, we draw it where we don't expect to see it? Here's another quick, short exercise. When we have a straight line, we know exactly where it's going, right? And now, if we wanted to neurograph this line, right? So I want to cover it with this neurographic line, right? And I try to make sure that this neurographic line goes exactly where I don't expect to see it. If I were to draw this line where I expect to see it, in the case when I want to neurograph a straight line like this, then I would probably do something like this, right? So I would be really careful here with this line, trying to cover it as closely as possible, right? And it would look something like this. But when I allow myself, while neurographing such a line to go a little bit up here, a little bit down there, then I might get the sense that I'm letting myself not force the line to go exactly where I expect to see it, but instead I'm giving it a certain freedom here. This is another very interesting exercise in neurography. It helps to make our ego a bit more flexible. So of course, don't worry if you don't get it right away or if something doesn't quite work out for you here. The most important thing is that in the end, the line is soft, rounded, and that you have the sense that it doesn't repeat itself, right? So it's not just a repeating sine wave. Right? But rather, it's a pattern that doesn't repeat itself. With a bit of room for the unexpected, for some surprises in how it flows. MHM. So, listen, these are the basic things we need to create a neurographic drawing. And just to be clear, when it comes to rounding, if we have the intersection of two lines, right? Rounding in neurography isn't something like this. It's not like that. Right? In neurography, rounding means carefully and precisely working on each intersection with quarter circles or half circles like this. That's what rounding is. And here, the neurographic line continues on. Rounded, soft, flexible. We connect everything nicely together so that there are no sharp edges, no, corners or jagged spots in the drawing. Everything should be soft. If, let's say, the line doesn't come out right somewhere, if somewhere it's sharp, jagged, or maybe angular, I encourage you to thicken that line. And try to find that softness. Don't be afraid of making it thicker. And there we have it. We have the basic elements, the basic skills that will allow us to create a neurographic drawing. So now, let's move on to the 84th Pathwork lecture, which talks about the divine attributes specifically. And before we even start discussing this topic and carefully examining how it actually works for us, I invite you to go ahead and grab a piece of paper, something that you'll eventually be drawing on, perhaps later in this session. The idea here is for us to allow ourselves, while we still don't know anything yet, before we're given any direction here about how this should look, I invite you to do a little experiment together. Knowing that, in this exercise, we'll be representing these divine attributes as 3 distinct circles, okay? So I invite you now to take a piece of paper. The paper is our field of consciousness, and with gentle attention, carefully and thoughtfully, draw 3 circles, which will each symbolize the 3 divine attributes. I'll intentionally wait for a moment here, just so that you can take your time to draw them yourselves, without being influenced by how I might present them. I warmly invite you to go ahead and draw 3 circles on a sheet of paper, at your own pace. Draw them however you like. Let your hand guide you, at your own pace. Let your subconscious guide you as you draw. And then, maybe thanks to this, We'll be able to read some information from it. Information that comes from this drawing. So don't worry if the circles don't turn out perfect or if you don't know how to arrange them on the page. Just allow yourself to. Allow yourself to manifest these 3 circles on your paper. I'll give you a moment, but don't overthink it. You can do it with a pencil. I'm going to work with a pencil today. Okay, now I'm drawing mine. Three circles, and I can label them. This one here is love for me. This one is, in particular, power, and this one is wisdom, or you could call it peace. You can treat those as synonyms. Love, power, and wisdom. 3 divine attributes. And now, I'd like you to take a deep breath in and out. They closed their eyes for a moment. Look at that inner vision. Does any image appear there? If nothing comes up, you can ask yourself what you would like to see appear. I see something like, I don't know, maybe yellow tulips? In such a vision of my own. Then we can open our eyes. We can look at our piece of paper. We can look at, or think about, that vision that came to us and give it a moment of our attention, right? In Neurografika, we give ourselves love, among other things, by giving ourselves time for self-observation and self-reflection. So even now, at this stage, I can ask myself, what do I see on the paper? What kind of impression does it make on me? What impression did what I saw in my inner vision make on me? How do I feel right now? What emotion am I feeling? How do I experience this emotion in my body? What thought comes to mind? Maybe what conclusion do I draw from everything that has happened here so far? Some reflection might come to you, or it might not, but as we go through this drawing process, I will keep reminding you to pause from time to time and do a quick scan of how you're feeling. All right, so for now this is our initial starting composition. We'll come back to it, but for now let's set it aside, because now we need to talk a bit about these divine attributes. What are they, anyway? Why is it like that? I've got some beautiful notes prepared here. Bozina writes that for her, everything is separate. Good, very good, everything is okay. We will still discuss this, right? We will take a closer look at how it looks now and what it might mean for us. But I think for now, just allow yourself an intuitive, quick reflection. Maybe something will come to you. But once we discuss this whole topic here, I think you'll be able to draw more conclusions and make more observations. Amicham. Okay, so I also want to let you know right away that there really isn't a wrong answer here, right? So whether the circles connect for you or not, it's all okay, just as it is. Everything is the way it's supposed to be at this moment, and this will be very valuable information for us for the future, right? once we discuss all these things. And one more important thing I want to tell you is that this meeting is meant to give you the opportunity to expand your self-awareness, especially when it comes to qualities in ourselves and in our lives like love, peace, or wisdom and strength or power, since those can also be seen as somewhat synonymous here. So I invite you to get to know these attributes, these qualities a bit, and also to recognize them within yourself, how they show up, whether they appear in a harmonious form or not. But all of this happens in the spirit of exploration, of self-examination, okay? So here, I encourage you not to judge yourself, not to get into any kind of self-criticism or feelings of guilt. The point is to look at how this shows up in our lives with curiosity. As you can imagine, we are divine human beings here on earth, so we have all these divine attributes within us. But as human beings, we're not perfect, so there are also distortions of these qualities in our lives, right? And it's worth being aware of this so that we can recognize it in ourselves, right? To get to know yourself better, to understand yourself more from this perspective. Gabriella from Slangford. Hi. Alright. So now, let's continue. What are these divine attributes? I hope you can see well, because the image is a bit off on my end, but I hope it's fine for you. So the good news is, as I already mentioned, that these divine attributes are within us. Because we are spiritual beings, beings created in the image and likeness of the original Creator. So you can be sure that each of us has these divine attributes within. So we don't have to fight for them, we don't have to strive for them, we don't have to, fight for them. We don't have to prove to anyone that we have them, and so on. Because the truth is, these attributes are already within us. See how you feel with that information. As I'm speaking to you, how does it sound to you? Okay, within me there is love, strength, power, peace, and wisdom. So observe what comes up in you right now. Do you feel any emotion arising in you? Or maybe a thought comes up for you. Is there a thought that says, yes, I've known this for a long time and that's how I feel? Or maybe a thought comes up like, well, maybe love and peace are within me, but not that strength. Notice what comes up for you. What are the first impressions that arise when you hear that we already have these divine attributes? We already have them. However, the thing is that sometimes they take on a bit of a distorted form. And then our task is simply, if we want to and we're ready, to explore these various somewhat twisted currents of those beautiful divine attributes. And thanks to that, we'll know so much more about ourselves. Nina writes, I recognize the truth in this. Thank you. Imogen. Great. So now, let's take a look here. See, these divine attributes are drawn in little circles. And look, here's this little figure, and this figure has those inside. So our little figure here has those divine attributes inside. right? And now, if we were to think about what love means to us, right? That's the first attribute. I invite you, if you'd like, to make some quick neurographic notes. Basically, just draw 3 little circles on another sheet of paper, okay? And then you can neurograph them a bit, label them. If anyone wants these ideas to sink in a bit better, maybe you'll remember them more easily this way. So if you'd like, go ahead and try it. So, love. What is love? I've written down here what came to my mind and what's also covered in the lecture. These are the characteristic features of love in its healthy, pure, harmonious form. So love is kindness, it's compassion. It's deep understanding, compassionate forgiveness, harmony, genuine communication, brotherhood, sacrifice, a kind of holiness, selflessness, genuine warmth, tenderness, gentleness, and humility. These are the ones. These words, these concepts that are connected with the attribute of love in its healthy, harmonious form. Nav. What is wisdom? Wisdom, in other words, is peace. I'm saying that here you can use these terms a bit interchangeably. Peace and wisdom are, above all, about having a healthy sense of distance. A healthy distance in looking at yourself, in looking at the world. Peace is objectivity. It's knowledge, it's cleverness. It's understanding, and as a result, also acceptance, because when we have understanding, we also have acceptance. And what is power and strength now, in their pure, balanced form, in their divine version? What is power and strength in the divine sense? In the divine sense, it is above all healthy assertiveness. It's healthy aggression, healthy control, composure. It's handling difficulties without the need to prove anything to others. Power and strength mean independence. This is self-sufficiency. This is agency. It means influence, in other words, power. My influence over others. These are achievements, these are actions, this is effectiveness. This is taking care of your own needs. This is courage and, well, bravery, that kind of toughness. Right? These are the attributes of strength and power. And now, if we're dealing with a truly healthy personality, these 3 important principles complement each other, support one another, and work together harmoniously, flexibly adapting depending on the situation and on what's specifically needed. When I need to, I tap into the power of love within myself. When the situation changes and I need to actively engage with life, I activate my power of strength. When I need to solve a problem, I turn on my power of calm and wisdom to find a solution. And then, as I said, they support each other and don't cancel each other out. And then love and strength give us a healthy distance and objectivity. True strength operates with love and also acts wisely. And true calm doesn't avoid emotions or shy away from different experiences of action. That's what it looks like in its healthy form. Here Magdalena writes that aggression is not healthy, so Magdalena, I understand aggression here as a vector of energy that is directed forward, that is aimed at fulfilling your need, right? So it's simply aggression is understood as a vector of force moving forward, as opposed to regression, as the name suggests, which means moving backward, right? And we often, especially when it comes to healthy aggression, confuse it a bit with the unhealthy version of aggression, which manifests as violence, right? Different kinds. But here, I want you to understand that aggression is simply, if you have a little person, they need to fulfill some kind of need. So they go after that need, they take a step, they act, they reach out their hand to fulfill their need. So in this case, it's simply a vector of moving forward. Okay, so now let's take a look. I'll try to do it in a way so you can see everything. Let's see what distortions of these divine attributes look like. That is, these three energies, these three qualities, love, peace, and power. Look, here you have another little person again. Here, look, this first one is kind of expanded. It contains all of these divine attributes within itself. But this one is already a bit narrower, kind of more limited. What? Wait, first it was supposed to be this one. First it was supposed to be a distortion of love. And this little guy is already a bit more limited. Why? Because when a personality is in such disharmony, it unconsciously chooses one of these three divine attributes, meaning it idealizes one of these divine attributes, either love or power or peace. They idealize one of these divine attributes and, in particular, choose that one attribute as a kind of pseudo-solution to all their life problems. And they reject the rest, right? So in this case, the distortion of love is that love is idealized, and the other two energies, so to speak, are rejected, right? And of course, what I'm telling you are very clear-cut examples, right? Just to make it easier for you to understand. But of course, in reality, in our individualized expressions, it's much more complicated, right? Because we can have different pseudo-solutions. They can overlap with each other, depending on certain aspects of life, depending on our age, and so on. So here, I'm showing you these three clear, obvious examples. However, We are often simply the result of various pseudo-solutions here. But let's look at this first pseudo-solution, when we choose love as this divine attribute, which is idealized, and we basically run on that alone, so to speak, right? And we reject the others as inappropriate, right? And then, look what happens when we choose only this one attribute and sort of suppress the rest, right? Well, naturally, we exclude them, right? We exclude a certain part of our divine attributes from our personality, and every such pseudo-solution is therefore rigid and, in reality, impossible to achieve, right? That's why, because we already know what the truth is, right? That everything is within us, right? All those divine attributes. So if we unconsciously, because this happens on an unconscious level, when we choose just one solution for ourselves, well, that ultimately leads us to pain, to anger, to being disappointed in ourselves, and even to self-contempt. Because, inevitably, we are not able to live up to the standards of that idealized self, in this case, that idealized mask of love, right? In Pathwork, we use the term mask, right? Meaning the external structure of our personality, that outer shell. So when we put on this mask of love, that's exactly what it looks like. Oh, maybe I should go back here for a moment, that every pseudo solution is. It's based on pride, right? On your own choice, and because of that, you also look down on the other options, right? That is, such a person despises, in the mask of love, most often power and strength and peace and wisdom. But because they've given up on these qualities themselves, on one hand they despise them, but on the other hand they actually envy them, because in their unconscious mind they believe they don't possess these attributes, right? So in reality, every pseudo-solution denies the true self, because our true self, our real self, is where we contain, hold, and use all of these qualities. And like I told you, every person has a mix of these different pseudo-solutions, although usually one is dominant. Although it can also happen that two are dominant, so it really varies a lot, right? There are many different variations, many different configurations here. So these identifications are usually not so clear-cut and obvious. Like I said, they overlap with each other. But now, let's see. What do we have next here? Right? So this little person chooses this pseudo-solution in the form of love, and he's very proud of it, right? And here he really values these qualities of love. And he actually uses all his mental strength to live up to these idealized needs, right? To this idealized self-image that he is always good, always compassionate, always understanding, always forgiving, right? He always sacrifices himself, is always selfless, and so on, right? And without the support of that strength, and without the support of wisdom, it's just naturally hard to achieve that. And then, in us, in a person like that, anger, frustration, and contempt simply arise. Basically, it turns into self-hatred. Also a sense of guilt for not being able to live up to those idealized qualities that they value so much. Deep down, subconsciously, they feel that they just can't live up to it, right? And what happens when those divine, those godly, those divine attributes, the attribute of love, pass through such a rigid structure of our ego, right? So this structure here is rigid, kind of angular. at the moment when that personality somewhere isn't harmonized. It's not entirely, let's say, healthy, in that healthy, harmonious form. Then this divine attribute of love, with all its qualities, passing through the shell of our ego, actually manifests outwardly in a distorted form, right? And what do these distorted forms look like? So, here's how it is. What appears as a false, artificial submissiveness, a kind of dependence, subordination to others, weakness, helplessness, people-pleasing, even servility, and an emphasis on one's own imperfections, downplaying one's own worth, and minimizing one's achievements. And at the same time, within this mask of love, there is a kind of moral superiority, like, I'm better because I'm so good. And this goodness, you see, actually holds the person wearing the mask of love back from having what those who are less good have achieved, right? Those who have strength, those who have wisdom, right? They act effectively, come up with things, and so on. But the person wearing this mask of love is so good that their goodness actually gets in the way of achieving those things. As a result, they give up, right? They give up knowledge, give up achievements, their own strength, give up their needs, give up assertiveness, and even healthy aggression. In other words, they renounce their true self, which actually contains all three of these divine attributes. Then. And so, in a way, she humiliates and diminishes herself so that by using this kind of false weakness, this kind of fake submission to others, she can actually force those other people to give her love, to give her affection, to give her protection. And so, here too, there might be this symptom where she boasts about her failures, because they kind of prove her false weakness, you know? So that's pretty interesting. When this divine attribute of love passes through the shell of our ego, it can become distorted in exactly this way, in this form, right? At the same time, a person wearing the mask of love, as I mentioned, feels contempt for strength, for healthy assertiveness and healthy aggression, right? They have contempt for agency, for action, for effectively taking care of their own needs, for fulfilling those needs, and so on. So on one hand, they kind of despise this, but on the other hand, they envy it because they believe they don't have it themselves. So yes, that's what happens when love gets distorted. But look, what's important is that even if you recognize this in yourself or in someone else's, we're talking about it now, right? This kind of distorted form of love, let's remember that, even when we encounter such confusion, at the core of our being, at our very center, our divine center, there is always present that true, harmonious, and balanced quality of love that remains unchanging and pure. And it's just that here, it's showing up in this distorted form. But that love, just like the other attributes that, in this unconscious state of this person, are, according to her, repressed. According to her, it's as if she doesn't possess them, right? That power and that calm. And now let's look at the distortion of power, and the distortion of power looks like this. As you can see, inside, a person chooses something as their ideal, right? As that one and only pseudo-solution, they idealize power and strength, all those qualities connected with power and strength, while at the same time rejecting the values associated with love and rejecting the qualities connected with calm and wisdom. And again, they use all their mental strength to try to live up to their idealized self. And then anger and frustration also appear, because of course, they're not able to live up to that idealized image, the one that says you always have to be strong, always without emotion, always win, always impose your will. Even though, on a subconscious level, this person has chosen that path, they still really need tenderness. They need closeness, even if they might not consciously realize it, right? They're actually ashamed of their emotional side, and they feel ashamed when they fail. They don't admit to suffering, and they don't admit to feeling isolated. Because here, above all, it's about strength. Yes, strength is the most important thing for them here, right? Let me go back for a moment, because I didn't explain where these distortions come from. Just very briefly, okay? In a nutshell, you could say that these distortions mainly come from our childhood, when a small child, right? When the child felt that their needs weren't being met in some way, that child came to believe, in the case of the love mask, that by being submissive and good, they would earn approval and love from their parents, right? Or from other significant people in their life, right? And this pseudo-solution that allowed the child to get by, well, if it gets carried over into adult life, then it stops being a sensible solution, you could say, right? And here, in the case of the power mask, when a person chooses this kind of pseudo-solution, that they will only be strong and won't feel anything, well, that can happen when a small child comes to believe that they'll only be safe if they become strong, insensitive, so independent, and so devoid of emotions that nothing and no one can touch them, right? And that's when, in a way, this mask, the power mask, forms. When it passes through this rigid ego, through that stiff shell, well, it comes out on the outside in a kind of distorted form again. And this distorted form of power and strength is exactly what's unhealthy, right? So, that's what you were writing about here, Magda, right? I think that's what you meant, that this is where unhealthy aggression, unhealthy control, unhealthy strength, unhealthy independence come in, right? When it's simply the only possible solution and nothing else, right? And here, because this pseudo-solution rejects love, because it sees emotions as weakness, as naivety, and thinks that love and various emotions are just embarrassing and shameful. And since wisdom, on the other hand, isn't effective or action-oriented, as I said, it rejects those qualities as well. And then, when you base everything only on those distorted elements of power and strength, you end up with a structure that is selfish, insensitive, self-sufficient in that way, hungry for power, domination, and control over the lives of others, and really obsessed with competition and winning. It's really all about ambition. But in an unhealthy way, right? It forces others, to do its will. And it can also, in a way, see others pessimistically and cynically, right? Ruthlessness, right? That's also like a distorted, a twisted form of strength is this ruthlessness. And this person is actually proud of the fact that they don't make mistakes, that they never fail. They revel in hostility and that aggressive fighting spirit all the time, right? So that's it when it comes to the distortion of power. Yeah, that's what I thought. And look, right? And you can observe whether you have any of these tendencies in yourself, or maybe you see them in someone else, right? Because here the mechanism of repression also works very strongly. I didn't mention that, right? So if, for example, I choose a pseudo-solution in the form of power and force, and I reject love and peace, because in some way I judge them as the wrong solutions, then I also reject them. I don't want to see them in myself, so I'll start projecting them outward, right? I'll see them in other people, and then I'll judge and criticize those people in a certain way, thinking they're not like me because they made different choices and are probably wrong, since they chose solutions different from mine. So we have a distortion of power. And now let's take a look at what distortion looks like in the mask of calm, when we choose calm as this pseudo-solution. Calm or wisdom. And then, as you can see, right? I identify with calm and wisdom. I reject love. I reject power and strength. And as a result, I idealize these qualities related to wisdom, like healthy distance, understanding, acceptance, and reason. I use all my mental strength to live up to the demands of this idealized self. And again, anger and frustration will show up here when I can't live up to such an idealized image. Because this image says that you always have to be calm, always have to be objective and detached. You have to look kindly and with such detachment at all human beings, knowing about their weaknesses, but not letting them get to you, right? Because. Not allowing it to affect me in any way, right? Well, of course, it's hard to maintain because in reality, it's a very illusory calm, and in fact, such a person secretly feels a lot of stress. The fear of getting hurt, of being disappointed, the fear of depending on others and, as a result, the lack of a sense of security, right? So it's hard. It's really, genuinely hard to maintain that sense of calm here. Although, quite often, it's such a strong and convincing mask that only when life truly has to shake up such a person, only then does it actually turn out that this calm was, in reality, just an illusion, right? And here, in this case, when this pseudo-solution comes, it's when that little child believed that nothing works, right? Neither submission nor aggression works. It didn't see any reaction here in any way, whether it was being extremely loving and affectionate or super loud. And that's when this pseudo-solution is chosen in the form of calmness, meaning withdrawal. And so, when this divine quality of peace and wisdom passes through the shell of our ego here, especially when it's so rough and jagged, right? Then it shows up as this false calm, this need for freedom from all attachments. A strong need for independence. But above all, it shows up here in the way that such a person is withdrawn, indifferent, avoids life, dodges various commitments, and often cuts themselves off from the world, all under the guise of spiritual freedom from attachments, and they idealize their own restraint. This kind of non-attachment basically runs on numbness, right? A lack of engagement is characteristic here, right? There's this kind of slowing down, this kind of giving up. And as I said, since these qualities are repressed here, it's like they hold them in contempt, right? That emotionality and closeness. They're proud of their distance, their objectivity, their rationality. And that's how it looks in this case. Hi, welcome everyone. So, we've now discussed these divine attributes. There was a bit of talking here, but I hope it was interesting for you in some way. You can let me know in the chat. Thank you. Type 3 if you understand all three of these divine qualities. Do you understand these distortions? Is it clear for you? If so, you can just go ahead and put a 3 in the chat, so I'll know that you're still here, that you're listening, and that it makes sense to you in some way or another. So, in that case, we can, oh, I see some 3s. Great, Beata, Nina, I'm glad. So now let's move on to our sheet of paper and our drawing. Great, great. Because now, having this broader perspective, a wider understanding of these divine attributes, how beautiful these qualities are, what wonderful traits they are, and how they can sometimes appear in distorted forms. Because as they pass through our ego shell, they often become somewhat distorted. Great, okay, awesome, I'm glad. I'd like you to take another look at your first drawing now, okay? When I asked you to draw 3 circles. And now, with this new knowledge, right? That the truth is here. Wait, the truth is here, the truth is here, and it's a reminder of who we really are, right? That we are beings who possess these divine attributes and already have them within us, right? And that if they work together, in true harmony, they support each other, they strengthen each other, and basically, they make it so that the human being simply lives fully, truly fulfills themselves, and lives a deeply fulfilled and meaningful life, right? And now, if you take a look at your circles. So, at the beginning, we drew them from that unconscious position, right? And you labeled those circles as love, wisdom, and power. Now, take a look at that drawing and try to read as much information from it for yourself as you can. What could that mean for you, right? The way those circles are arranged. What size are the circles? Are they connected? Are they separate? Are they well-shaped? Are they misshapen? Yes, here it really doesn't matter for it to be perfect. We'll be refining, perfecting, and shaping it in a certain way in just a moment. But for now, try to squeeze out as much information as you can from yourself, for yourself, through your paper. I won't write on the composition that everything crossed beautifully, but I feel that this calmness, well, I still kind of feel like it's mine, okay? Exactly. And now the most important thing is that you just want to explore this for yourself, because there's some information hidden here. I can tell you what I see in mine. Yes, in my case, I see that I have love connected with wisdom. I have wisdom connected with power, but I don't have a connection between love and power. And that's some information for me. What do I understand from that? For example, I understand that at this stage, I am already aware of these 3 qualities. I make use of them. They are more or less equal in size, so I come to the conclusion that these qualities are more or less balanced in me. I am endowed with all of them, one after another, because it could be that each of us is endowed differently, right? Some people might have a really big circle of love, while their circles of power and wisdom might be smaller, right? It's not about judging it now, but rather just looking at how it is. And what I understand from this drawing is that I need a connection here, right? To connect this energy of love with this energy of power, right? Because here, I can connect love and wisdom, and that already works together here. I can connect wisdom and power, but here, yes, that's how I understand it from my drawing, that I still need to integrate this more for myself, right? So that this power also works together with love and wisdom at the same time. Because for me, it's kind of either or, right? It's either wisdom with love or wisdom with power. That's how it is for me, for example, right? And I warmly invite you to take a look at this for yourselves as well. For you, the interpretation might be, of course, different, but really squeeze out that information. What could this mean for you? What do you see? Without judgment, without any evaluation. Just try to turn on that curiosity of a researcher. Aha, what has shown up for me on this piece of paper? Magda writes that unfortunately, she didn't draw intuitively. I was modeling myself after you. Well then, Magda, now you can just take another sheet of paper, this time with the intention to let whatever is true for you in this moment show up, whatever is current for you, that you want to see it, that you're ready, and just draw it again. It looks amazing. Someone writes, me. Oh, because that was earlier. I've already started drawing and I ended up with a heart. Basically, a heart with 3 chambers that pump these qualities to each other. M, beautiful. Bozina, rather a nicely shaped little circle of power. The smallest one, everything spreads out. It doesn't really harmonize together. Each circle is separate. Wisdom is pretty oval and smaller. Love and power are the same size. And now, moving on, because you noticed something, right? And that's great. Now see if you can take that conclusion a step further, okay? How might this show up in your life? How do you recognize it here? What could this mean for you, right? How would you interpret it when power and peace are connected, but those 2 qualities are surrounded by love? Joasia, you need to find that interpretation yourself, because of course I can tell you mine, what comes to my mind, but the whole point here is that you have to know for yourselves, right? What does it mean for you? Because only you are in your own head. You are in your own heart, and that's really information just for you. So, Joasia, I think this is a very interesting situation. And ask yourself, how would you interpret this? When you see that strength and calm are connected, and on top of that, they're surrounded by love. Emitim, great. On your rights, I have 3 separate, distant circles. They're small and all over the place. Anya and the den, right? Ask yourself, what could this mean for you, you know? How do you understand it now, right? My love turned out like some kind of egg, but emotions and wisdom are round, big, all separate. Emitim, some kind of egg. Well, Magda, I sense a bit of judgment here towards the egg. Apparently, the egg was meant to turn out like that. In a moment, we'll model it into a visualization that's perfect for us. As if we wanted it to look, now that we're richer with this wisdom, this knowledge, these insights that you received from me today, that we received from the Pathwork guide here, right? So that now we can think about our intention, right? How would we want it to look in our lives, right? Because if, for example, these circles don't connect, right? Then, please, don't start judging yourself. Like, oh, everything in my life is a mess. Nothing matches up. It's a total disaster. Okay? Maybe that's just how it is right now, at this moment, right? In your life, maybe in this exact situation, that's just the dynamic, right? That maybe those energies are working separately right now, you know? But think about it. Are they really working separately, or are they working in a distorted way? Maybe you notice some distortions in yourself. That's actually really valuable, because as humans we make mistakes and we learn from them. And if we have the willingness and courage to find those mistakes within ourselves, then we're also able to, well, harmonize or fix them in some way, right? To bring them back to their original, let's say, form, right? Now, while we're here, alive, we'll never reach that divine state where everything is perfectly harmonious and everything fits together. But the whole point is to strive for that while we're here, in this incarnation, right? But for that, this recognition is necessary. Why? As long as we don't have that recognition, well, we can't manage what we don't know within ourselves, right? You're writing a lot here. Thank you so much for sharing your impressions here. I won't read all of this out loud so we can keep moving forward, but I will definitely read through it all later, okay? But it's great, really great, that you're getting involved, great that you're recognizing this. And now we're moving on more to the neurographic part, right? How much time has passed? Well, an hour is an hour and 15 minutes. I think that's actually a pretty good result. In neurographic drawing, usually in the neurographic process, we start by building a psychological dominant, which means writing down words for 2 minutes. But I think that at this stage in our work, that dominant is already activated now because you're analyzing your circles, you're looking at them, you're absorbing this knowledge, and you're confronting this knowledge with your own individual experience here, with curiosity, and so on. So I assume that this psychological dominant is switched on in each of us. The neurons are working. The neurons connected to divine attributes are functioning. They're active. So now you can use the drawing you have. If someone feels that in this drawing they are not able to remodel it into the form they would like to see with this intention, well, what is the intention, right? Of this drawing. My intention is to visualize on this sheet of paper the ideal, the perfect image of the cooperation of these 3 divine attributes. This is my desire. I'll have this urge within me. I want to recognize all these qualities within myself. I want to make use of them. I want to simply tap into their full potential. Well, I can tell from the drawing here that I definitely haven't used up all that potential yet, right? So before we start drawing, you've already discovered a lot. Let's give ourselves this moment of love, okay? So I invite you to close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and out. Look at your inner vision. When you have your eyes closed, focus on that inner screen. It's black at first, but if you set the intention for a vision to appear, for some inner image to show up, just see if something comes to you. For me, it's a bit more interesting here. Earlier, I saw tulips here, a field of tulips. Now I see that some of the tulips are withering, some of them here, closer to me. That's interesting. What am I feeling? I feel a certain tension, a bit of unease. I don't know what it's about yet. Ask yourselves. I'll ask myself, what am I feeling about this, right? What emotion is coming up for me right now? How do I feel it in my body? I feel a kind of warmth on my cheeks. I feel a gentle buzzing in my head. I invite you to notice how it is for you, because you've discovered a lot here. That's how I feel. That's what I see from your comments. So notice now how you feel, how your bodies are doing, your body, how your emotions are, what you're feeling, and allow yourself to feel every emotion, okay? If it's an uncomfortable emotion, if some resistance comes up, some criticism or anger, then accept that energy too and allow the energetic charge of that emotion to simply flow through you, okay? So, from the top, from your head down, with each inhale and exhale. First, recognize that emotion, name it, and then consciously let it flow through your whole body. No, absolutely do not reject any emotion or feeling, even if it's somewhat uncomfortable. Just accept it and simply let it pass through you. Here comes a big moment of realization, a moment where you might discover something uncomfortable. So at this point, you might feel some tension, some resistance, and we accept all of that with the curiosity of a researcher observing what's happening within us. Great. All right, so now let's move on to shaping our image into the form, into the vision of how I would like to see it, right? And I'm saying, if you're working with a pencil, you can do this on the same drawing. If you feel like it's going to be uncomfortable and you want to take a new sheet of paper, that's fine too. I'll take the drawing I have, and what I see is, well, I'd say my circles are pretty well shaped, but they're definitely not perfect, right? And I can see here this separation, and I'd definitely like to bring these two circles closer together. I'd like to see that all three circles are roughly the same size, and that they really reinforce and intertwine with each other in a significant way and on multiple levels. That they are connected. So I allow myself to kind of practice drawing circles. I let myself draw the circle many times so that I can get an effect that satisfies me in terms of size and shape. So I brought that power closer here. I'll also bring that love a bit closer here, so that love. Also, think about the shape, okay? Because maybe you feel the need to make one of the circles bigger, or maybe make another one smaller. Maybe you don't want all the circles to be the same size at all. It could be very different for you, right? In my vision, I feel like I want all these circles to be the same size. So that I feel these three divine qualities are evenly and harmoniously distributed within my personality. And here, I really allow myself to boldly draw these circles, going over them many times, so that in the end I get a result that satisfies me. I can press harder with the pencil or marker if I'm already sure about the shape. At the same time, I know it doesn't have to be, a perfect shape. It doesn't have to be a circle drawn with a compass, because I know that here in this world, there are no ideals, right? There's only the pursuit of a certain kind of perfection. But really, if we were all perfect, then everything would just be the same and it would be boring here. So allowing ourselves a bit of imperfection here is actually an expression of beauty, a sign of our divine individuality, our unique way of being. Each and every one of us has those divine qualities. For each of us, they show up a little differently. And that's why we're so beautiful, because we're different. Oh, and now I can see it in my drawing. I can clearly see that these three qualities in me are connected. They have a strong overlap here. So I invite you to also reshape this drawing in a way that feels satisfying to you. And how do you do that? Again, I invite you to close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath in and out, and see if anything has changed in how you feel. After drawing those circles, maybe see something in your inner vision. In my own vision, I see that in the place where those wilted, blackened flowers were, something new is growing there, some sprouts. I feel like the buzzing in my head has faded away. I feel more at peace. A kind of quiet inside. See how it is for you. Did you experience a similar transformation? Did these actions, even just within the composition itself, do something for you? Did it affect your state in any way? Yawning started. Awesome. Yes, yawning is a sign that, yes, something is definitely happening there. Anicham. Oh, someone wrote that they didn't feel the need to remodel, just to neurograph. Great, Anicham. That's totally fine. So, Yuelin, we're following your lead. That means we're moving on to neurographing. You can label those circles again if you lost track of them somewhere along the way. Label them nicely so you like how they look, because we're about to start. Maybe I'll take a thicker marker now to make it faster. I'm grabbing my marker now. Now that I have my main circles marked out, I can go over them with the marker. More specifically, that's just how I felt. I thought I would only be drawing with pencils and colored pencils, but I suddenly felt drawn to this marker. I can immediately ask myself, what does that mean to me? It means that some greater power has shown up here, a bitter courage to express my own truth. That's what comes to me. And now I'm starting to do neurography, right? Look, start with whichever circle you want. My hand is drawn to this power here. So I begin to neurograph the shape itself with a neurographic line. And I also let the line flow gently inside and round off the intersections that appear. don't worry about those lines that are still faintly visible from the original drawing. If you have them, later we'll also neurograph them calmly and dissolve them into the background. But for now, let's focus on neurographing, meaning activating, bringing to life those shapes, the ones that are right for us, the ones we want to see in our lives as divine attributes. How do they function within us? Let's mark them. Let's neurograph them. Neurographing shapes in neurography is exactly for this purpose, right? So that with this bionic neurographic line, we can sort of implement this pattern, this image that we have remodeled for ourselves, in order to, in a way, let it into our subconscious as a ready-made instruction manual. Because I know that just the drawing alone isn't enough for the full harmony of these divine attributes to appear within me. However, I understand that I have started a certain process. I understand that I have become aware of something. I understand that now my conscious intention is, first of all, to recognize all these qualities within myself, to accept them, and also to recognize to what extent they are truly manifesting in their divine, harmonious form, and to what extent they might still need attention, care. Because if they are out of harmony, it means that at some point in their development, they simply got stuck. And now we need to take care of them so they can mature peacefully, so they can become active within us. And in this way, I work out my own representation of my three divine attributes. I round it out. I'm not afraid of the thickness of this line here. The thickness of the line will help me and them to sort of dissolve those original lines. The neurographic line, the rounding, make everything in the neurographic drawing come together into one coherent whole. Remember to breathe, to help yourself with your breath, and to constantly observe what appears in your mind, in your heart, in your body. Now my hand has led me toward wisdom. So now I'm doing neurography here. And at the same time, unrounding. I allow myself to make thick, distinct neurographic nodes. I want to see that everything is soft, that everything is connected, that it all vibrates with this bionic, natural shape. That all of this is starting to make the picture, starting to come alive on my page. This idea, this concept, is starting to come alive within me, so that these divine attributes are integrated within me, so that I am aware of all of them and consciously use all of them in the most harmonious way possible. And now it comes to me that I ask for this kind of mindfulness every day, to recognize those places where they might not yet be fully mature, where they still show up here and there, in some unhealthy form. I admit that this is how it is in my life. That I am always on the path. I'm always searching for that harmony. Sometimes I catch it, sometimes I lose it. But I know that I'm on the path. And I know what my intention is. That's where I want to direct my thoughts. That's where I want to direct my imagination, to focus on that beautiful vision of harmonious action. Not to focus on blaming what isn't working, but to notice it, to embrace it, to allow it to grow, so that it can fully develop and serve me, serve the world, and serve other people. I breathe. And I observe how the energy of my thoughts flows through the neurographic line. After all, every neurographic line is energy of my thought. I observe in my drawing how I am fueling divine attributes with the energy of my thoughts. Every closed shape in a neurographic drawing represents a certain meaning. I watch how these meanings emerge the moment I connect the lines together. I can consider what the meaning is, what the quality is in a given attribute. And I complement, I fill in. I keep working on my circles until I feel that they are full, that they are saturated with my attention, my energy, my integration, my conscious acceptance of them as they are right now. That my intention is to harmonize them. Aspiration. Aspiring for them to manifest in a beautiful, divine way within me, in my life. I feel moved. I sense like that. Of acceptance. Of understanding. Of my own imperfection. In those places where these energies are still distorted. And I also invite you to reflect in this way, to observe while you draw what is happening on the page, how you are neurographing, how you are rounding things out, what appears, maybe some insights, maybe some memories, maybe some images. Dimitrim. Nina, thank you all. Thank you for the comments. It's great that Nina wants to go with the flow to get into the water. That you're sharing here that you feel like yawning. I'll tell you, I was yawning before our meeting. That's when I had that symptom. Now I'm leading the session, so I'm running on a bit of adrenaline, so for now I'm not yawning, but I know that feeling well. Nina, If you start to feel aggression, please don't keep drawing, but instead focus more on rounding out what you already have in your drawing, okay? Because these techniques in neurography, when we draw the rounded neurographic line, when we create all these roundings, help us stimulate our state toward greater calm, a sense of harmony, and a feeling of safety. If a feeling of aggression appears, then breathing and rounding can help. Because aggression is also a kind of resistance, right? When that energy gets activated, let it pass through you with conscious breathing and ask yourself, what is this aggression about? Why did it show up right now? What could this mean for you? So, what is this aggression really trying to tell you right now? And at the same time, with these neurographic lines, look, I'm drawing them out for myself. Come this. So I'm basically drawing out, here I'm kind of dissolving those unnecessary lines from the drawing into neurographic lines, the ones I had before, the earlier ones. And I say, I'm not afraid of thickness. I'm not afraid of big, bold roundings, especially if these are beginners, people who are encountering neurographics for the first time. Here it's really important for you to pay attention to whether it's actually soft on your drawing, whether there really aren't any sharp edges or corners. If there are, then I encourage you not to draw any more lines for now, but instead to focus on rounding and harmonizing what you have at this moment. Of course, I'll keep going with the drawing in a moment, but don't worry if someone can't keep up. There will be a recording, and you'll be able to finish it calmly on your own. It's important to have the sense that this line doesn't repeat itself, that it's rounded, really soft. I'm not holding back, as I said, with the thickness. Thickness can really be your friend here in this process. Remember to breathe. I round off and thicken everything I don't like. All those lines I don't want to look at, I just boldly turn them into a thick neurographic line. And I round it off. This is a very important stage in the neurographic drawing process, this rounding and neurographing. This is the moment when, during the drawing stage, we're actually working on the structure of our ego. Here, we're working with our individuality, with all the resistances within the figure of our ego. So this is a very, very important element, a very crucial moment. I ask that all of you make sure to finish this part of rounding and neurographing. Please, if possible, try not to step away from your work until you've completed this stage. This is important in the context of the process, right? So if I start to process something, start to change something within myself, then I need to show both myself and my subconscious that I'm going to do something with it, that I'm transforming it into a harmonious form, meaning rounded, soft, and flexible. So please don't neglect this part. During the course, as a participant, I have a lot of time then, to explain everything to you, to tell you why, and so on. Here, I know I've already given you a lot of information, so I don't want to overload you any further. I want you to have space for your own thoughts, your own impressions, your own conclusions. And that's more or less exactly what this particular stage looks like, as you can see. In my neurographic composition, the figure that emerged, in our case, there was a composition made up of 3 figures, but those 3 figures together formed a single, unified figure in our composition. And this figure right here has now been neurographed, rounded off. And now I feel like I can move forward. So when I feel that this exact moment is complete, that I feel it's harmonized here, rounded off, that there are no cuts, no sharpness, no sharp edges, no corners, no jagged lines. That's when I move on. And next, once I have the form of my divine attributes harmonized here, now I can symbolically release neurographic lines into the background. That is, release this harmonized energy of mine into the surroundings. So I draw new neurographic lines. Of course, rounding off the intersections again. So as to create a coherent image for myself. A neurographic 1. Figures of integration, figures and with the background. But wait a moment. I can pause for a moment before I continue drawing these lines, because I forgot that we were supposed to give ourselves some attention. Time for self-observation, self-reflection, so I put the marker down for a moment, close my eyes, and take a deep breath in and out. I look at this inner vision, what appears on my internal screen. How is my inner vision changing? I can see that something mysterious is still growing inside me, but I cannot quite tell exactly what kind of plant it is yet. I can feel my heartbeat, steady and strong. It's steady, but strong. What comes to mind is that somewhere in this drawing process, I'm symbolically connecting with my own strength. That it's like I feel my heart, that it's beating, but not at some crazy, unhealthy pace, It's just a steady, strong beat. I didn't feel this heartbeat before. So I give it this interpretation that symbolically I'm connecting my heart with strength and that my heart is gaining power. I feel calm, and at the same time, I feel really engaged in what I'm doing. It's a complete focus. And I invite you to give yourself this moment for reflection, for self-observation. How is my body feeling? What am I feeling right now? What is appearing in my inner vision? What do I see on my paper? And how can I relate this? What ideas, impressions, or reflections come to me here, connected to the theme of divine attributes that we're working with today, that we're activating and becoming aware of today? I think what comes to me now is that this is beautiful work we're doing today. I'm connecting right now with gratitude for myself, for my courage, for my creativity in bringing this to you. And immediately, I also just think of a whole team of people. There's really a whole team of people who support me in this, who cheer me on, who get involved and help with what I do. But that's actually a pretty normal reaction at this stage, when I'm drawing the background lines. Because that's when, in a symbolic way, I connect with my surroundings in the neurographic drawing. And here, for me, it just naturally brought up these thoughts about other people around me. Look, here I still have this line left over from the old drawing, so I'm dissolving it into the background now, right? So I'm drawing neurographic lines in such a way that they carefully and intentionally cover up this particular element in my artwork that I don't want to be visible. This is the element that, in my opinion, doesn't really fit with or contribute to the overall aesthetic vision I have in mind for my drawing. By doing this, I'm making sure that the final piece reflects exactly the look and feel I want to achieve. And with neurographic drawing, it's really nice when we actually like how it looks, right? When it gives us aesthetic satisfaction, that has a huge impact on our state of mind. It helps shift our mood to something more positive, more satisfying. If I'm looking at something I like, and I'm also aware that I made it myself, then there will always be a sense of pleasure, satisfaction, joy in your own creation, joy in your own creativity. So it's worth striving for that. If you ever feel that subtle shift in your mood, like things are just a bit better, there's noticeably less tension, a little more calm, maybe even some joy, or maybe something just finally clicks for you, be alert to it, really notice it, truly appreciate it, and make use of it. Use it to see things in context. In this changed state, try to find a new thought related to our topic, connected to those divine attributes. From this new place, from this new state, from a different place of expanded awareness. One that's both logical and emotional. How do I feel now with these divine attributes? What comes to me now is that these divine attributes, in a very real and meaningful way, actually connect me with other people. Lately, I've had so many pleasant moments when people would come to me for supervision, for individual sessions, for various meetings, and it turned out that we really spoke the same language, that we had a similar way of seeing things. And now I'm coming to the conclusion that this is probably the greatest value for me, when I feel truly understood by another person. When I catch that thread of understanding with someone. And there's this joy then, this sense of recognition, like, that's my buddy, my kind of person. That brings me so much joy. So, those are just some of my thoughts here. MMM. I'm saying this to show you, using my own example, how you can work with this. How you can guide your thoughts and impressions here, so you're not just focusing on the act of drawing itself. Of course, that's important, but above all, use the drawing process to feel some kind of change within yourself, to experience different sensations, MMM. Take advantage of that moment when you feel harmony and a sense of aesthetic satisfaction. To make use of it, allow yourself to connect with your thoughts, with your insights. Of course, completely different things might come to you. But it's important to stay mindful throughout the whole process, not to drift off into just, relaxing drawing, but to keep fully aware, observing yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions, and to get as much benefit from it as possible, meaning information for yourself. Starting from the assumption that nothing here happens by accident. If, while drawing, I felt some anxiety, some discomfort, some anger, if something resistant came up, it's important to know that this is part of the process and that I can use it to get to know myself better in that place of resistance, if, of course, I want to. Oh, beautiful. And so, for now, I'm finishing this next stage of drawing. When I have the feeling that I've already filled the background with neurographic lines, so that I have a sense of a cohesive whole in the drawing, that my depiction of my 3 attributes has merged with the background. And again, if I'm at the stage where I feel that this is enough for now, I give myself a moment of love, which means a moment of reflection. So I close my eyes, take a breath in and out. I look at my inner vision, I look at my image. On my inner screen, right now, a huge tree has grown for me. It's so big, so enormous, that you can't even see the tulips behind it anymore. And it keeps growing, reaching higher. Yes, I can see dynamically how the trunk is growing up to the sky. Very beautiful. I'm checking how I feel now, how my body is doing. How can I interpret all of this in the context of divine attributes? That was for me, the vision of such a fast-growing, very strong tree was very comforting. I understand that this tree is exactly that, growing quickly. Quickly, rapidly growing straight. Flowing from the integration of all three divine attributes. And that it's just such a powerful energy that what is being created, what is growing, is simply. It has a staggering pace. So now I'm building this statement for myself that my fulfillment, my joy in life will grow at a staggering pace. When these divine attributes are combined in a harmonious way, I allow myself to have such a beautiful vision. I'm not afraid of it. I allow myself to have it. The next step in drawing is adding color. So I take colored pencils or markers, whatever you have. Using a marker will be faster, so maybe I'll go with markers after all, even though I said I'd use colored pencils, but I just noticed that our second hour has already passed. So to make sure we finish this smoothly, I'll use markers. I mean, highlighters. I especially encourage those of you who are drawing for the first time to use highlighters. They're light and transparent, so they won't ruin your drawing. Even if you don't like how they look, you can always cover them up later with another color. My advice, a little tip, don't start with dark colors. In drawing, you can always make things darker, but it's much harder to lighten them up, especially if you're using markers. I arrange the color by creating larger shapes. I connect those small spaces that, as you can see, have formed for me. I join them into bigger shapes using color. This is also a very important stage in drawing neurographics. When you look at it, if I assume that each of these spaces has its own meaning, then now I'm integrating those meanings by creating these larger shapes with color. So, at the very least, color at least two neighboring spaces with the same color, okay? So that it's not just fragmented by color, but so you can see that the color creates some kind of larger structure, bigger shapes, maybe even bigger streams of color. It's up to you how you do it, but make sure the color brings things together, so that you get the sense that it's really bringing all the different elements together as a unified whole, not breaking your drawing up into separate, disconnected parts. You know, the idea is to create harmony and cohesion in your artwork. So now, at this stage, we're adding colors to further enhance that sense of unity and to make the drawing feel even more complete and vibrant. Of course, you can also leave some white spaces, but again, at least two next to each other. I'm definitely going to leave some white spaces here myself. I want to have that feeling of airiness. I can blend colors together, such as blue and yellow, or even layer one over another, sometimes if I feel like it, if that's my vision. I'm breathing. I'm helping myself with my breath. Whenever I feel overwhelmed or anxious, I take a moment to pause and focus on my breathing. By taking slow, deep breaths in and out, I can calm my mind and body, allowing myself to regain a sense of control and peace. This simple act of paying attention to my breath helps me manage stress and brings me back to the present moment. It's a technique I use regularly, whether I'm facing a difficult situation or just need to relax. Breathing deeply reminds me that I have the power to support myself, no matter what challenges I encounter. Notice what you feel in the moment when you add color. This is a truly very energizing moment right now in neurographic drawing. For me, joy always comes right away when I allow myself to use color, when I touch color. See how it is for you. Choose the colors you want to look at, the ones you like. You might be wondering what each color means to you. And keep up with the reflection. Keep thinking all the time about your divine attributes, about what you've experienced, about what you've learned, about what you've recognized within yourself. How do you feel with this image? Is it different, changed, transformed? When you see this possibility, when you witness this vision taking shape right there on your paper, it becomes clear that something truly special is happening. You notice how the elements, which may have once seemed separate or disconnected, are now beginning to spread out so harmoniously in front of you. They start to interact in ways that feel natural and balanced, as if each part instinctively knows its place and purpose. You observe them cooperating, working together seamlessly, and supporting each other in a way that creates a sense of unity and shared purpose. This unfolding scene not only demonstrates collaboration and mutual support, but also inspires a deeper appreciation for the beauty that emerges when different parts come together to form a cohesive whole. Let me see what you have here, but what if it's exactly the opposite? Anya, I don't know. Here, I'm losing the context because I didn't look at the chat earlier, so I don't know what you're referring to when you say it's the opposite for you, you know? Magda, beautiful. Anya writes, total denial, even aversion. Yes, those are forms of resistance. You need to breathe and round things out in those moments. I recommend breathing, rounding, and allowing that aversion to just pass through you. Let that energy of aversion flow through. Nina is in the flow. My circles disappeared in a tangle of lines. Well, Magdalena, if your circles disappeared in a tangle of lines, then just notice how that makes you feel, okay? Do you? Do you like it or not? Because if you interpret it in a positive way, you can just leave it as it is. And if you want to see your circles, if you want to have a clear view of those divine attributes all the time, then you can always highlight them again with a thicker line, right? It can go either way, so see which graphic solution works best for you. Here, I feel like I want to see my circles clearly, and I don't want them to completely blend into the background. I want to see them very distinctly, to know that they're there, that I can recognize them, that they're connected, and so on. But it can also be that someone feels like they completely dissolve. I mean, they merge with the background, with the surroundings, and there's no longer any sense of separation. Everything just becomes one. A kind of feeling of connection, of unity. Or maybe it's more like dissolving. It can be different, right? So see what you need, what solution is best for you. Any action is good, as long as you like it and as long as it works to strengthen you, right? So, if you're losing sight of the circles, but you want to see them, just make the lines that define them thicker. You can also highlight them with color in some way if you want. And if they've disappeared and you like that look, that's fine too. You can always ask yourself what it might mean for you that they have, that they just melted away like that. And that's the most valuable thing. Yes, the most valuable thing is your insights while drawing neurographically. Your reflections, your states, the experiences that come to you, no matter what they are. They are very valuable because they tell you something about your topic. So whatever they may be, accept them with gratitude, observe them, examine them with genuine curiosity. Discover what you learned about yourself today, what new things you found out about yourself. Thanks to this practice, the mitrum, and feel this one. Nagda, what beautiful work I did. My circle disappeared, even the mountains are alive. I can't keep up, but I feel like it's going to be great. Anya, I'm here. Marcus, could you show which markers you used? Please. These happen to be stabilo markers, but you know, I use all kinds of different markers. This just happened to be what I grabbed, although I also have others, and these stabilo ones are pretty nice. These colors are really pleasant, right? Well, I also have pelicans. They are cool too. Faber-Castell as well. But specifically today, what I grabbed was this one. Alright, so we've got the color applied. I feel like, for me, it's all levy-okay. A lot of work. I'm going to pull an all-nighter. Gabrisiak is writing. Well, Gabrisia, there are ways to speed up this work, especially when you use a thicker marker. When you make the lines with a thicker marker, the lines and curves just come together faster. When you work with highlighters, too, it also goes faster than just using a colored pencil. so you can speed things up, or maybe you actually want to savor being in the drawing process. That's great too. It will be recorded. The webinar will be recorded. Kaya writes she finds it hard to draw curves. She would rather draw sharp lines. When I was drawing curves, my heart was pounding. I felt some anxiety in my stomach area. That's interesting. Well, the idea here, in neurographic theory, we assume that curves and circles have a soothing effect on our subconscious and that they calm us down. So that's a really interesting reaction you have, Kaya. So close your eyes. Ask yourself, what could this mean for you? What does this circle for rounding off remind you of? What kind of anxiety is there about rounding it off? And breathe. Inner work. A lot, Gabricia. I understand. I get it. I like it too. I also like to savor it. Great. When you finish archetyping, meaning applying the color, I invite you to do this again. To take a moment for reflection, okay? A kind of self-scan, a scan in these four points of focus. What do I see in this external image? What do I see in this internal vision? What do I feel? What is the emotion? What sensations do I notice in my body? And how can I interpret this in the context of the topic I'm working with today? With the divine attributes. Can I show the drawing from a wider perspective? You know what? I'll try, but I'm afraid that the focus will be lost then. I don't know. Let me know if this is better, or should I leave it like this? Can you see better on Instagram? If you're on Instagram, there was also a suggestion for you to switch over to YouTube because the Instagram live might get interrupted. At least, that's what I understand technically. Hey, Mitchum. Yes. The link is in the bio on Instagram. Yes, to the stream on YouTube. On YouTube, you can see everything. After this reflection, what do I think? What do I feel? How am I doing with my topic? I feel really good. I feel beautiful. I feel satisfied with my drawing. I feel more and more at peace. A sense of being grounded and inner expansion. And in my vision, the tree keeps growing. I just don't know how tall it will grow. So the next step, if we want to finish our neurographic artwork here, is to basically draw a main line on the drawing. In neurography, this is called the field line. So the field line is a line that runs across the entire drawing. And now I'm choosing the most important line. We're looking for a thicker marker. Let me see. I don't have one. Oh Jesus, how did it happen that I don't have one? Alright, fine. So I can look at the drawing and maybe I can already see where that main line is on my drawing. For example, I can see a part of that line right here. I think it's going to be here. So I'm thickening this part, this element, and here as well, because I feel like the field line will go here, and I can use the lines I already have. By thickening them, I can, regardless of the lines I already have, create a main line on the drawing, and then mark it out. There can be one field line, there can be 2 or even 3. Here, so as not to drag out the process, I'll just make one for now as a symbol, but it's very possible that I'll add another one later. The main, most important line in my neurographic drawing. It's a moment of simply connecting with divinity, with the power of spirit, with those forces and energies greater than myself. This field line is like the main energy channel in my drawing, which powers everything I've traced, drawn, visualized, understood, transformed, and processed into this new image. Completely different from how it was at the beginning. Think back to the first 3 circles you drew. See how much it has changed, how it looks totally different now. It's a completely different picture. Yes, there's a single field line. All right, I'll draw another one. I'm not going to hold back. I also invite you to energize yourself here through the drawing, to energize yourself through this main line, which symbolizes the connection with divine energy, however each of you understands it. With whatever you want to connect to, whatever you know supports you. In my intentions, when I draw the line of the field, I connect with these currents of Christ consciousness. However, this Christ consciousness, this Christ energy, isn't tied to any specific religion or religious tradition. Rather, it is simply connected to a certain current or stream of consciousness, a particular way of being and awareness that is practiced and explored specifically on what is known as the Pathwork path, which is a spiritual journey focused on personal growth and self-discovery. And you can connect with that name, that unique energy, that powerful force you trust, the one that supports you, that truly nourishes you and helps you feel whole. This second line, it's probably still not visible enough. After drawing the field line, there's a moment in the neurographic drawing where I mark out the main figure, right? Because now I've marked out the main lines, so now all that's left is to define the main figure. And now, feel whether it will be one of these figures, or maybe all of these figures at once. Or maybe it will be some new figure. For some reason, I don't understand it yet, but I feel drawn to choose the power figure as my fixation figure. I'm watching myself with curiosity here, wondering what that could mean for me. The meaning doesn't come to me right away. I understand that this is the quality I need to strengthen in myself at this moment, the one I need to integrate even more, to harmonize even more, and maybe allow into myself in an even greater way. That's the meaning that comes to me, because I clearly feel compelled to highlight this circle for myself, which for me represents power. See how it is for you. It can be really interesting. This is also an important element, a very important moment in the drawing process, to mark this main figure for yourself. Puma Gosha has landed on YouTube. Awesome! Sorry to those on Instagram. If you can't see something there, I invite you to switch over to YouTube. One cell is wagging side. Iwanka is writing. So, see what that means for you if it's just one sound. So, we assume that there should be at least two next to each other in the same color. So you can add another line in the middle, and then you'll have two white cells next to each other. Formally speaking. However, you can use what appeared in your drawing to ask yourself the question, what could that one white cell mean in the context of those divine attributes for you? What does it reveal? What did it manifest? What if I can't see anything? Bosina, I assume you mean that you can't see anything in your inner vision, right? Because I understand that on the paper you can see it since you're drawing something, so you do see something. So if no inner vision appears, try to read the information from the paper, okay? What does the drawing tell you? What do the sizes of the circles tell you? What do your neurographic lines tell you? Their arrangement, their shape, how your hand guides you. Where does your hand want to draw? Or maybe where does it not want to? There's just a whole lot of information for us if we're sensitive enough to pick up on it, right? But of course, it all comes down to practice. I'm saying that if someone is drawing for the first time, there might be a lot of information for them here. It might happen that something, gets lost in the process, so just take it easy. Used to add a line in the field. Very good. For me, there's a big circle that contains all the ones I've drawn. Awesome. Hand pink, something like that. For me, there are big circles that contain all of them. Yes, yes, yes. It's about the vision. Thank you. Borzina is writing. Amicham. Yes. Borzina, and I'm saying, if the vision doesn't appear, I always encourage you to close your eyes and ask yourself, what would I like to see? Right? How do I imagine my vision when it comes to divine attributes? And then, most likely, when I focus my intention, when I make an effort of will to do this, to make an image appear that I want to see, Because maybe you want to see, you want your vision to include, I don't know, love, right? So maybe a person you love will appear, or someone you want to come into your life. Or maybe just some symbol of love will come to you. Maybe you want to see all those divine attributes and how they're connected to each other. And look, maybe then something will appear, I don't know, like a little heart with, I don't know, an arrow and a book. Right? So like some kind of symbolic objects, right? That represent those divine attributes, right? You just need to use a bit of your imagination here. Allow yourself to do that, right? Allow yourself to imagine something. And then it's very likely that something will come to you. And if it doesn't, then just make something up. What do I want to see, right? That I want to. So I just close my eyes and say, I want to see a little heart, because a heart is about love. And you'll see that most likely that little heart will appear to you. Because it's like, that's how our mind works. If I tell you, don't think about a pink elephant, you know what happens. It will show up right there in your inner vision. So give it a try and don't get discouraged, because honestly, despite how it might seem, it's actually easy. Alright, so the last element. This is the styling stage, which is the moment when we really refine the drawing. So at this point, we can still add some style, add something extra, maybe some shading here, some tonal transitions, maybe some more rounding, maybe some more lines, maybe even some little circles. This is especially, for those people who might be feeling a bit uneasy, right? For those who feel uncomfortable, you can. At that point, the creator of the method says to round off everything you can. So anywhere I see the chance to add another little circle, I can go ahead and do it, right? So here, for example, I can add another little circle. Here I can make a circle wherever my hands are drawn to, wherever a shape pulls me in. Just so I can really fill in my vision with circles here. Of course, all the elements in a neurographic drawing have to be connected, so don't just draw circles all over the place. They're floating around here somewhere, unconnected. Everything has to be connected to each other, and maybe somewhere here as well. Oh, maybe another little circle here. I'll connect them nicely here. This is also an interesting technique that can add something extra for you here. To your vision. Some new, aesthetic, and simply interesting expression that truly captures attention and imagination. Just so that you like it. Oh, for example. So, as I'm saying, at this stage of drawing, there's time and space to simply bring your drawing to the highest level of aesthetic ecstasy, so to speak. So that you like it as much as possible, so that you're as satisfied as possible with your work, so that you enter a state of delight, because it will be a state of delight connected to those neurons that are now activated, related to your divine attributes, with love, with power, and with wisdom. So the greater your delight in your drawing, the higher the chance that this theme will start to work beautifully in your life within you. Let's remember, it's always a process, right? And it's a long-term process, this kind of change. But I think today we've made a beautiful start to this process. I'm curious to see how it will work within you and within me. It's definitely a very interesting prelude. But what I also want you to remember is that all these divine attributes, remember, they are already within us. They are already within us, and the only thing we need to do is to recognize them, integrate them, harmonize them, and allow their energy to work in a healthy way so that it serves us. For us and for others, in a healthy, sustainable way, so that through them we can grow, develop, expand our personality, expand our self-awareness, and expand our reach. Our self-realization in the world. In a healthy, sustainable way, that is, without harming others. And of course, without harming ourselves either. Which, of course, can happen unconsciously. So I'll stop working on the styling at this stage. For me, it already looks really nice here. Of course, you could still refine a few things here, but I feel like for this joint drawing process, this is enough. I just encourage you, as the girls wrote here, to spend some more time on the styling, to savor the beauty of your drawing, so that you like it as much as possible, so that it brings you the most satisfaction. And now, at the end, we didn't do this exercise at the beginning because at first we activated our neurons with my rather long-winded story, but I hope it was interesting for you in some way. But to finish, and normally also to start the neurographic process, we do it by writing down one topic. Our first topic was those divine attributes. And now, at the end of the drawing, we write down topic 2, which sounds exactly the same. It doesn't change. Divine attributes. But now we do an interesting exercise where for 2 minutes we write down all the words that come to mind right now, so that we can see how our thinking about our topic looks now. Yes, so I invite you to do this. We have 2 minutes. I encourage you to spread these words out all over the page to create some kind of typographic composition with them in whatever way you feel after the drawing exercise. I think this will be fun. Let's go. Okay, take a deep breath in and out. Look at your words with curiosity. You can highlight the ones that are important to you. You can also insert color here and create such a topographic and color composition so that you stay in creative mode the whole time. In composition mode, I have some really beautiful, lofty, and spiritual words, so I want to highlight them here with some color. And I let myself freely create this spontaneous composition across the whole page. I feel like I'm expanding with this sweeping motion of the marker. I allow myself to do it. Now, as I'm drawing, a final conclusion comes to mind, that somewhere along the way, this element of strength within me has come together, has integrated. I feel like that was the most important thing for me in this process. I invite you to also take a moment to reflect on what all of this means to you. What was the most important thing for you here? What did you discover? What did you understand? I even like my own typographic and color composition. In short, I'm just in a state right now where the world feels beautiful. In this state, with this conviction, with this attitude. Oh, what a wonderful state. See how it is for you. I hope that some of you also, entered that flow state, that state of being in the zone, that state of joy. And if not, well, then it's still ahead of you. No, that's possible. Phew. A final reflection. Yes, let's close our eyes. Take a breath in and out. Look at your inner vision. For me, the tree keeps growing and doesn't want to stop, but that makes me happy. See how it is for you. What do I feel? I feel immense joy, immense gratitude for this meeting, for my courage and strength to stand up to this. I feel great gratitude to you for choosing to be here with me, for trusting me. I'm loved. I feel warmth throughout my whole body. A pulsing sensation in my hands, warm, heated, full of energy. And now, a final reflection, right? Final, what are your final conclusions from your drawing? For me, it's a stronger integration and within myself of this element of power. That's how I feel. Can I draw the same topic multiple times? Yes, as many times as you need, Burzina. As many times needed, we keep drawing. This is called working in a case, right? Several drawings on the same topic. You'll know when the topic is finished, when you really like your drawing, when your final words don't leave you with any doubts. That will be the moment when you finish the case. Wonderful, Bardas, great workshop. Martas, you're amazing. Well, thank you. Nina, you're amazing too. Really? What we focus our attention on grows. Amicham, warm regards to everyone. Tonight was incredible at times, even though there weren't many visions. Bozina, the visions will come. I'm sure of it. Sweetie, when can I replay this on YouTube and draw? Oh, that's a question for Powell. When will it be? I think it'll be soon. Maybe Powell will write to you in the chat in a moment. Oh, Powell writes, you can go on YouTube at any time and watch this webinar. So basically, it's being recorded on YouTube right now, and you can just replay it whenever you want. I got others, clutching tightly, breathlessness, cloudless astonishment. I don't fully understand here, but I get that Daxp is writing something positive. Can you draw this algorithm several times? Yes, you can. Thank you. Thank you all very much as well. Maybe I'll switch over for a moment, just to take another look. Damn, I won't look at you, but you look at me. That's something, at least. Dear ones, as I said, thank you so much. I also feel like this was an incredible meeting. Like I said, this was a prelude. It was an experiment. It was a combination of neurography and the Pathwork teachings. Please let me know in the comments and wherever else. Was it cool for you? Did you like it? Do you want more? That would be valuable feedback for me. For example, I had this thought. Well, it might be a bit controversial. In February, there's Valentine's Day. You know, it's that holiday of love and all that. A big egregore. So I thought maybe we could do a webinar about the energy of love in. There's actually a whole lecture from Pathwork that talks about how the energy of love is distributed here in our manifested world. It covers the energy of love, the energy of eros, and sexual energy. So, you know, we could also go over that for Valentine's Day. If you're interested in that, please write love, okay? In the comments. That way, I'll know that something like this would be interesting for you. I also have a webinar prepared that goes a bit more in depth about the structure of personality, because there wasn't enough time for that here, right? I only told you that these divine attributes pass through the rigid structure of our ego, and that's when they become distorted. But there's actually a lot more to say about how this distortion happens, right? Why? What's going on there? What are the different layers of this personality? So, for example, if you're interested in that kind of topic, that's also knowledge from the Pathwork lectures. You can also write personality in the comments, for example, right? That way I'll know that this is something you're interested in. I promised some people I'd draw with that in February there would be a space balancing session. So, it will actually be a paid webinar, which is kind of thoughtfully laid out on a Bagua map. There, we'll cover feng shui, different directions of the world, and how to balance your spaces and various aspects of your life using that. So, if there's a lot of interest in the topic of love, then we'll move the space balancing session to March. Basically, I just want to let you know that I'm saying this. This is the very first webinar. If there's interest, if you want more, we'll keep doing more of them. I don't want to commit to topics for the whole year, because as you can see, these things come to me spontaneously, and it's important for me to keep a certain level of spontaneity and freedom here. I've just shared a few topics with you now. If you're interested, we'll go ahead and do them. For more on Neurografika, I invite you to visit neurographica.art. For more on Pathwork, and for more materials from Pathwork lectures, check out Pathwork, Pathwork Polska. Pathworkpolska.com.pl, I think. Anyway, if you type in Pathwork Polska, path as in pathway, spelled P-A-T-H, not patchwork. Patty, patchwork, Poland. This will show up for you. Oh, you have it in the chat. The Polish Patchwork website. There's also a nationwide website, patchwork.org. There you'll find all the translated lectures, because there are over 200 of them. I encourage you to read them. They really are beautiful, beautiful content. And now it just came to me that the topic of spiritual downfall is also really nicely connected here with these divine attributes, and it's described very beautifully in those lectures as well. So it would also be worth checking out if you're interested. If you're curious about how that downfall happened, well, it's actually connected to these divine attributes. That's all I'll say for now. So what now? Was there something else I wanted to say? Ah, I know what it was. I still have to brag about something at the end here, take advantage of the fact that you're still with me. I was going to record a separate, Instagram story about this, but I'll take this opportunity since you're here. I'll show you the gift I got from Beata Saksek, who's here with us, and Anya Newman. I don't know if you're here, Anya. Look what I got. I want you to see this. I'm not sure if you can see it well. Maybe I'll show you on the other camera, because honestly, this is something precious and it's never been seen before. Look, these are gingerbread cookies. These are gingerbread cookies to munch on with neurographics and neurographic designs. Seriously, this is fireworks. These are fireworks. You can find them on YouTube and trace them yourself. And these are drawings from monthly planning. I recognize that this one is for planning January. This is planning, probably planning for February. Well, listen to them. These are gingerbread cookies. Anya is the one who makes these cookies, and I have no idea how she did it, but my actual drawings are literally on the cookies. I'll share a link to Anya on Instagram in case anyone's interested. It's called Pikonicum Anya, that's the name. I'm showing it and I don't care if someone thinks it's some kind of advertisement or not. I'm absolutely delighted with this gift. I'm enchanted by it and really surprised. So thank you so much, ladies. There have never been neurographic gingerbread cookies before, so this is yet another beautiful creation. And that's exactly how divine attributes manifest through us. When we simply create a quality that didn't exist before, that's the most valuable thing for this world. So I wanted to share this with you, this joy of mine, because I also received it from my students and, it's just incredibly moving. That's a bit personal, but it's also connected to neurographics. You want to talk about love, about money. Okay, with love, you have to learn to love yourself, and love from others will come when we're ready for it ourselves. Amichum. Beata. Thank you, Marta, I trust. I trust you, because you talked to the cat, sorry. Aha, that's a shame. Well, it's going to. Yeah, I'll eat it. But I won't eat them all right away. First, I'll take some more photos, I'll savor this beauty, this amazing creation, and only then will I crunch into it. Thank you, Beata. Thank you, Anya. I am incredibly grateful. Yes. Listen, we still have 3 more minutes. I thought it would actually wrap up in 3 hours. I'd really appreciate it if you could write what you're taking away from this. It can be just one word. Or maybe, what state are you in right now? Or what was the most important thing for you in this process? Just really briefly, you know. What now? How are you feeling right now? What are you taking away from this? Maybe just a quick insight. What was interesting for you here? What did you experience? What did you learn? Just to wrap things up. I'm leaving, once again, with a lot of gratitude. Thank you so much to everyone here, and a big thank you to everyone in Argentina who is listening live. I am incredibly grateful to Anya, who has been translating the whole time. And really, thank you to everyone. To those who are here with me for the first time, and to those who already trust me and have been with me longer. I feel connected with all of you. And I feel a great sense of peace. A peace that's mixed with love and strength. Truly. Thank you. Surprised grounding. Well, beautiful. Immense gratitude. Wonderful workshop. Unhappy. Balance, harmony, gratitude for you, dear Martuja. Oh my, thank you so much. Moved, 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 touched, joy, gratitude. Good night. Emitum. I also thank you all very much. Truly beautiful. Listen, exactly 3 hours. We'll wrap up. The video will stay on YouTube. This one will stay. You can listen to it again, redraw it. And of course, I invite you to the user course, which starts at the beginning of February and then again in March. If you want more neurographics and really want to learn it properly, to do it consciously and thoroughly, I warmly invite you to the user course. The 1st and 2nd of February. There are probably still spots available online, because the in-person ones are already full, and in March we have another session on the 20th something, where you can join both in person in Warsaw and online as well. You're writing. I won't have time to read all of this now. I mean, I'll read it later, and for those of you who have to log off now, of course I understand, but I'm just absolutely delighted with your communication. Communication is also a form of love, so I suspect that we've all entered this beautiful state together, and you're writing to me so beautifully and sharing, and that's incredibly valuable to me. Dax writes that I have a lot to think about, especially after the summary and the words that came to me. Amitum, awesome. Gratitude, thank you. Awesome. Thank you. It's my first time here. I finally got to spend some time in creative colors. Belief in myself and my abilities. That's great, Kaya. I'm so glad you joined us for the first time. I'm glad you enjoyed it. With gratitude. Oh, and here's a link where you can share your feedback and drawings. You'll find a link in the chat. I'd really love to see your work, of course. I don't have that option here, so if anyone would like to share their drawing and maybe their impressions from this drawing session, you'll find the link in the chat. I'd be extremely grateful, and I'd love to take a look. It's great that we could integrate something that seemed to have a life of its own, that seemed to be living its own life. The visions promise a beautiful, neurographic future. I'm grateful. Marta, Kinga, you wrote that beautifully. It really is beautiful that we were able to integrate something that seemed to have a life of its own. Thank you so much for that comment. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. A new self-awareness. I wasn't aware that distorted love sends power and wisdom into the shadow. It was probably in the shadow. Exactly, exactly. I'm saying this, of course. I was showing you all these obvious examples, right? We need to examine this within ourselves, really dig in there, really get to the bottom of it, look closely at all these little nuances, because all of this is mixed up inside us, intertwined. It's rare to come across truly clear-cut cases, right? Like, it's only love here, and I reject everything else, right? Because it can be different, For example, in my own life, I've already gone through a phase of distorted love, and I've gone through a phase of distorted peace. I feel like now those two are already working, and the third one is just starting to join in, It's not always so obvious. The dynamics are actually very, very different. So to recognize that in yourself takes a lot of courage, because you have to step out of that idealized image of yourself, right? So, whether I see myself as very loving, or very authoritative and strong, or as wise and, well, this, here it requires making the ego more flexible, too. It's simple, but it's not easy. Often, the stronger and more rigid and stiff the ego is, the harder it gets. But I feel like today, with these neurographic lines, we've really made everything much more flexible. Okay. It's worth it to become a user, Maria writes. Thanks, Maria, it really is worth it. If you like neurographics and you haven't taken this course, I truly encourage you from the bottom of my heart, because there is a lot of really important information there if you want to use this method. Okay. Once again, thank you all so much. I won't be able to read everything anymore, and actually, today is supposed to be some kind of energetically important day, and that's just my intuition. Listen, the 25th just happened, so cosmic energies are still supporting us here. Milena has already arrived, so that's clearly a sign that I need to wrap up. Yes. So once again, thank you so much. I love you all. Take care and stay warm. Keep developing your divine attributes and share them in your own unique, beautiful way. See you, hopefully, on more neurographic paths. Kate.